Hi, everybody out there in Facebook land. Welcome to another edition of Beer 30 Happy Hour Chat. This time we're drinking beer from Georgetown Brewing, and we're talking to a couple of our buddies from Georgetown Brewing. So cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So it goes without saying that you guys are drinking Georgetown beers. So am I. I'm drinking Lucille. What are you guys drinking?
Drinking Reed's baby here, Johnny Utah.
Johnny Utah. That makes two of us.
Awesome. So, I don't know. Is anything interesting or new going on down at Georgetown Brewing? You have anything interesting going on? I mean, I heard something about these. I'm wondering what the hell everybody's talking about. This Manny Canny thing.
Yeah.
Today was the big day.
Little project.
Yeah.
This is another one. It's like it reminds me of when you guys started canning beer to begin with. And I was talking to Roger, and I said, "You guys told me that you were never going to package your beer." He said, "We didn't say never. We just said we didn't have plans to." And I was like, "Right, you said never." So Manny's is going to be available in cans. Seattle's most ubiquitous, most popular, beloved, iconic draft-only beer is going to be available in cans. And I'm telling you, people are freaking crazy excited about that. And I'd love to hear some more from you about how you guys arrived at this decision to start canning Manny's in the middle of a pandemic, and maybe hear a little bit about some of the challenges, some of the things that were interesting about trying to put that beer into a can. So what do either of you have to say about why you decided to put Manny's into a can?
Well, backing up a little bit, just to give you some coverage on why we initially thought we probably never would, was just to keep Manny's as a draft-only beer that you had to go support your bar or restaurant to get. And you could get our beer in the grocery store in cans, obviously, but Manny's we wanted to keep special in that way. It was kind of an ode to all the industry workers, and so when all this happened with COVID and things started shutting down, I mean, Manny's sales essentially went to zero because the only stuff we were selling was out of the brewery. And there are kind of two things that happened. All the people that really liked drinking Manny's weren't getting it, and our bars and restaurant friends were really struggling. And so it came together really quickly. But that's when we decided to release it in cans as a way to get the beer to the people that wanted it, but at the same time take all that money and give it back to those in need. And so yeah.
Right. What's that part of the program about, the giving back part of it?
So all the profits are getting donated to Big Table and the Plate Fund and We Are Yakima Fund, and I think actually there's a couple others on the list now too. I'm not sure.
And they're all organizations that support people in the food and beverage industry, people who are the most seriously displaced people in this whole economic shutdown.
Exactly.
We hear all these numbers about how crazy unemployment numbers are going through the ceiling and stuff, and it's really hit the service industry especially hard, the bar industry and the restaurant industry. So that's cool that you guys are set this up to give money back to that philanthropic arm of this whole pandemic.
Right. And then when we thought, when we started putting this idea together, we reached out to some of our partners in the industry, our ingredient suppliers, and the feedback was fantastic. People wanted to help. So Country Malt and Great Western are donating the grain for all of this beer. And let's see, Hollingberry hops and Roy Farms hops and Hop Planner hops all wanted to participate too. The thing is with Manny's though, since it's not an IPA, it doesn't use a lot of hops. So we got more interest from the hop side in helping than hops we actually needed. So a few of them actually just threw in cash donations, and so that'll get funneled directly to the donation.
Well, you could let them donate all the hops they want to, and then we could just use those in our beer church beer coming up in October. So, yeah. We're getting a little bit of an echo. Do one of you guys have speakers turned up or something?
Going down. Does that help?
And then also you closed captioning on turn the closed captions off, that would be better.
Closed captions. My wife is telling me that we have closed captions turned on, and I didn't even know I could do that.
And they're so incorrect that they're distracting.
Am I the echo?
I just turned mine down quite a bit.
Okay, I don't know how. Well,
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I don't know where the closed captionings are coming from, and I'm sorry about that. I understand they're very wrong and very distracting.
Yeah, accurate closed captions.
So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to delete all of my banners.
You don't need to do that.
But anyway, so back to Manny's.
Manny's.
One thing I want to say about Manny's is that it still holds up. I mean, the beer is going to be 20 years old here in a couple of years. And when it was introduced, it was really hoppy. And so it's interesting to hear you say what you just said about the hops, because that was one of the things that set Manny's apart when it was first introduced in, what was that, 2003, 2002? But it's really interesting now that by today's standards, it's not hoppy like an IPA, but it's still, I think it's a really impressive beer. It's aged so well. It was maybe kind of ahead of its time, or it helped kind of define the times. But yeah, it's like one of those things where I always tell people, if I wander into a bar someplace and the best thing they have on tap is Manny's, and I complain, just punch me in the neck. I mean, it's like it's still a really good beer, and I still have several friends who it's their go-to beer. That's what they order. There's some other beers out there that are ubiquitous like that they kind of taste a little bit like they're just phoning it in at this point. But Manny's, somehow it still manages to be relevant, and it deserves all the popularity that it has. And I love the idea that there's more Manny's on tap in King County than there is like Coors Light. Which is things that Columbia Distributing has told me off the record, but I guess it's on the record now.
Yeah, it's on the record now.
Anyway, so Matt, why don't you're Innovations R&D brewer, right?
Yeah, R&D, yeah.
So what have you been working on?
Mostly we've had some good foot traffic come through the retail space, so mostly it's been trying to keep retail space stocked with like one-off IPAs and kind of fun one-off beers, because the retail has been a really nice success. A lot of people are coming in and getting growlers. I think we're selling around like close to 3,000 growlers a week. So I mean, you can deplete a 15-barrel pilot batch pretty quickly like that if you're selling between 250 to 300 plus growlers a week of a certain brand. So it's mostly kind of just scrambling on the pilot system, trying to get just new, fun IPAs out there. Something people seem to like their hop forward beers, so trying to do our best to give them that. And at the same time, bringing back some old favorites. Like I'm going to brew a batch of choppers next week, because there are some of the diehard hoppy red fans out there still, and so trying to integrate some of those old recipes that we've made in the past back in. But at the same time, not getting too crazy, because we're kind of in a staying mode right now. Where we do have a direct focus on what we need to do. So not trying to recreate the wheel with anything right now on the small system. Just basically just trying to do my little part over there to keep the customers happy and hopefully get some brewers over to get trained up on the small system.
So
yeah, it's kind of a week.
You guys, the way that I've noticed you guys do things down there at Georgetown is when I go into the tap room, there's always all sorts of crazy stuff on tap that I may never ever see on tap ever again, even at the tap room. But are these like R&D beers? I mean, are these things that you're kind of working towards something, or are they just for fun and shits and giggles and see how it turns out?
It's a little column A, heavy column A and a little column B. A lot of it, there is a direction towards it. It's like, okay, well, we have these hops available to us. Let's see what kind of variations we can get out of them, and then start integrating other hops in there to kind of pair them up. Like we just got a new hop in, Brew One. It's a proprietary hop from Oz, through their breeding program, and basically just taking some Citra that we have contracted that we're pretty familiar with, and then bringing in new hops and just seeing how they play together. And if it becomes a discussion point later on, it's like, okay, is this a direction we want to take and go down that road? But at the same time, when we do that, it is something kind of fun and new that we haven't done before. But a lot of them, the root of a lot of those one-off IPAs is seeing what direction we can take those hops, and also what improvements can we make there that can maybe be applied to the big kit system to our production beers. And we've done that with some of them, where we've done some processes on the 15-barrel system, and it has translated up to the larger production system. So a lot of time, so the first goal is to how do we improve our beer overall. And the second part is obviously having fun making something new, but with the end goal is like trying to future proof ourselves a little bit, getting the most out of our ingredients, and trying to learn a little bit more about ourselves in the process too.
I think recently, in terms of process changes that Matt Edwards is referring to, one challenge we see is we want to add more hops to beer and make the beer hoppier, but without making it necessarily more bitter. And Matt's done a great job incorporating a new process that we refer to as the Whirlpool Knockdown. You want to talk about that a little bit, Matt?
Yeah, it was kind of a process that's been used at other breweries that through other breweries I've talked to. A lot of my fun part of my job is going out and talking to other brewers and drinking other people's beer and seeing what's going on. And we kind of started like this process a while ago, and I kind of got the first idea of it, I think, from Steve Luke. And I was talking to him at Cloudburst one time about cooling down the Whirlpool to different methods of extracting less bitterness out of your hops and trying to maintain more flavored aroma, and basically lowering the temperature, that boiling point, that isomerization point, down to the rate where it's not as intense. And then so basically, try to get more flavored aroma out of your hops with less bitterness, because even when you throw it in the Whirlpool, it's still roughly at boiling temperature. You're still going to get some sort of extraction bitterness out of it. It's like, well, how can we mitigate that a little bit? What can we do to get more out of our hops, the qualities we want to get out of our hops? And so at Georgetown, we developed, for our process, other breweries have been doing this with specialized equipment, but we had to figure out a way, how can we do this on a scale system for us, which was basically taking 2,400 gallons and cooling it down almost 20 degrees in 10 minutes in a stationary position. And, that was a challenge that we had to figure out mechanically, production-wise, getting people trained up, make sure it was done in a safe manner was probably one of the biggest ones. Make sure it's done safely, and then we have one of the first beers we applied that to is Reed's beer on Utah, because I think that was one of those beers that we really liked all the qualities, but there's certain directions that we maybe wanted to kind of lean that beer towards more. The drinkability, it being a pale ale, maybe softening up the bitterness a little bit, but hopefully maintaining some of the citrus qualities in there. And that was one of the applications we used that process for. And it's, Reed was nice enough to let us do that to his beer, that he's, his baby. So, it was a considerable process change, but it was one of those things that, we try to develop things like that on a smaller system. And then if it makes sense, if it's applicable and it's, it's a sustainable process, and we try to, then we'll pass it on to the big kit system. And we probably played around with that. The first beer we ever did that on was the Home Shows beer. I don't know if you remember that one that we did, the Pearl Jam one. That was the first beer we ever did it on to try, because the whole idea of that beer is like we want to make a really drinkable beer that people could have at a concert. But we also want to be hop forward too. So we want to cut back the bitterness. So how do we approach that? That problem. So that's kind of.
I'm a little bit curious. I want to make sure people understand what we're talking about. We're talking about taking, after the beer is done boiling, and you're ready to, and you take it to the Whirlpool, at which point is when you add a lot of those late edition hops. You're cooling it down more than it would naturally get cooled down at the end of that process to help the kind of hop character that you're getting out of it. Is there anything, I mean, how are you doing it mechanically? How are you doing that without sending it through a heat exchanger or something? Is that a proprietary secret?
We are using a plate and frame where it'd be really nice if we had a large enough tube and shell heat exchanger. It's really tricky when you send it through a plate and frame because the narrow gaps in there are so small that a lot of particulate doesn't want to go through.
Just so people know, you're talking this is all jargon. Basically it's a type of heat exchanger to cool the liquid down.
It's a fancy thing to cool down the wort as fast as we can. It basically allows a temperature change. And the whole idea, I guess, it'd be like, letting like a tea bag sit too long in boiling water. It has a sweet spot where, you don't want to leave it too long. You're going to get those tannins, those kind of bitterness. We want to avoid that. So you pull it out early. And one way you can either pull it out early is actually physically remove the tea bag or drastically drop the temperature of that liquid as fast as you can to kind of avoid that process change. So obviously we can't remove all those hops out of there. So the next thing is, okay, we need to drop the temperature of there really fast, really quickly in a short amount in a very kind of small window is kind of step that we took with Utah. And
how much temperature drop? I mean, maybe you already covered this and I'm forgetting, but how much temperature drop are you talking about? How much are you talking about cooling down the Whirlpool for this?
But it's about 20 degrees. We drop it, almost. It goes from about 212, 213 degrees down to about 185. And we'll take it down from 185 down to about 68 degrees over, like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, almost an hour. But getting that first initial boom drop down 20 degrees in a very short amount of time is the tricky key part in a stationary object, in a big container essentially that's in place without moving it too much. So that's where the tricky part of the process part comes in.
That's crazy. I'd never heard of such a thing. I was still trying to wrap my brain around the idea of hop bursting and adding no hops to your beer until the final edition. I'm still so old school. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that.
Right. And then at one point that wasn't even enough.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things. It's like the more you do, the more you have to do, right? That with the hop character, right. And God bless the hop farmers if they just keep creating these interesting, flavorful hops that challenge all of our ideas of what hop character is supposed to be in a beer.
Right.
I'm gonna look at Facebook real quick and see if anybody has any questions. I'm not really interested in whoever it is that wants to see Matt Edwards with his shirt off.
Oh, that was me. Oh,
that was you? Okay. I would assume that you already have seen Matt Edwards with his shirt off. I got a question for you, Matt. It has nothing to do with your shirt. It has to do with toothpaste.
Fair enough. What was that?
What kind of toothpaste do you use, Matt?
I use kids' toothpaste actually. It's strawberry flavored Tom's.
I was hoping you'd tell the truth.
Is that?
And there's a very specific reason why I use that.
Right. Please tell us your version of the truth.
My version of the truth is because when I get to the brewery about 5 a.m. in the morning, one of the things I'll do is I walk over and I'll start tasting beers out of the fermenter just to kind of see just see how they're coming along. And I'm really sensitive to that kind of mentholy, minty, or any of those kind of flavors. It just sticks on my palate for hours and hours. And I found this strawberry kids toothpaste, and I use in the mornings. And if I use that, and when I come to work, I can actually smell and taste beer because it's not coating my mouth with all that menthol. So I use kids toothpaste. And my wife says I need to use it. So she makes me use regular adult toothpaste like at night and on the weekends. But if I'm going to go be drinking beer in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, I have kids toothpaste. And,
see, I was under the impression that you used that toothpaste because one of the only places you can get it locally is at Pharmaca in West Seattle, and that's very close to the beer junction. And I just thought
Oh,
that
really?
I thought that was maybe your reason for telling your wife that you need to use this particular kind of toothpaste.
I don't remember where I got. I think I got it.
Our wives talk, by the way.
What's that?
Our wives talk.
Yeah.
Okay, and I've got a question for you too, Reed. What's with the ducks? Do you still got now that you have real children? Do you still have ducks?
I do. Yeah, they're 7 years old now.
Wow.
And it's become more of a commitment than we really knew we were getting into when we started. But yeah, they're just pets.
You just have two, right?
Just two, yeah. They don't have anything to do with beer, other than it's fun to drink a beer and watch them run around the yard and be stupid. But,
that's classic. I've heard that ducks are really cute and lovey and wonderful and adorable up until you have three of them.
Yeah.
If you have more than two, they become this vicious, ugly, mean, horrible animal. And it's like, I don't ever want to see that in a duck. I enjoy ducks just being stupid and cute and funny. So I don't ever want to see the other part.
That's pretty much all they're good for. But yeah.
Well, do you get eggs from them?
We did for a couple of years, but they're too old now. They don't lay anymore.
And what are the ducks' names?
One of them is Citra. I'm sure you can guess. I got the name and which one my work name.
So Citra, and what's the other one?
Buttercup.
Buttercup. Is that from the Princess Bride?
Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay, we'll go with it.
Princess Buttercup.
Getting back to the reason why we're here today. Manny's and Canny's. When is that going to happen? You're anticipating that being at the brewery when?
I don't remember the exact date we were looking at. I think we're looking at a release date after the Memorial Day weekend. And actually, speaking of that,
release dates. From what I know.
I'm sorry.
From what I know, there's going to be the release date that you guys released the cans at the brewery, which I think is like a week from Saturday.
Yes, that sounds. Yeah, that sounds right.
Which I think, when the world was right side up, that would be the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
When there was a week, and when there was a Memorial Day and there were holidays and stuff, and people actually did things, would be Memorial Day weekend, and then sometime after that, shortly thereafter, it's going to be available in the store.
Great. I think we're looking at shipping to the distributor that midweek after that Saturday. And the other thing that is absolutely worth mentioning is that to put this project together in this kind of a time frame would already be a challenge. And then consider the way that the market is right now, with everybody getting a lot of their beer from grocery stores. It puts a huge demand on canned beer. And those can producers already operate at 24/7. So they start getting push from every customer of theirs to increase production. They just can't do it. They're already full. So in the time of COVID, to present a new project to our can suppliers and our paper products like the 6-packs and the that was a hurdle, and that was a complication that they really stepped up to supply for. And so a lot of, with this project, the timeline has changed a little bit because we've been trying to get it done as soon as we can, but that stuff all takes time with design and approvals and fit it into the production schedule. And they hustled to make that happen. And they're a part of this too. We couldn't have done this without them.
Yeah, it's a strange world out there right now, and it is pretty impressive that you guys are able to do something, or that you are doing something that is way out of bounds for I think what Georgetown Brewing imagined themselves doing. You guys right now, the easy path. Correct me if I'm wrong. The easy path would just be to keep putting Bodhi in cans, just keep brewing Bodhi, putting it in cans, and just filling up Costco and grocery stores with pallets of Bodhi. So it's really impressive, and it's not surprising. Georgetown has always been one of the best breweries I've ever known of in terms of philanthropy. And the Bob's Brown Ale. What's going on with Bob's, by the way? I mean, you guys have done so much. My point is, you guys have done so much for charity and for nonprofits. It's much or more than any brewery I've ever known of or heard of. And especially focusing over the years around Bob's. What's going on with Bob's this year?
Yeah, unfortunately, we had to put that on hold. Obvious reasons. We had some plans in the works, and I think I'll not comment on that right now because we may save that for next year. But yeah, Bob's is still a thing, and we're still working with the Ronald McDonald House to raise money for them with Bob. And actually, it's May 14th, so it would have been Bob's birthday today. This would have been the release day.
Yeah.
Cheers to Bob.
So, cheers to Bob, absolutely.
So for people who don't know, Bob's Brown Ale is traditionally it's a draft only beer that just gets sold the crap out of around town whenever you guys release it, which is every spring in this time right now.
Every May 14th.
And originally it was a very short run beer that it was around for a month or something, and then it was gone. But the last couple of years, you guys have ran it all summer long, and just proceeds go to the Ronald McDonald House, and it just earns a ton of money. I know that when I've asked Manny about it, he's told me that I've been doing the math over the years because I've been doing my blog for 10 years, so I've been keeping track. And Manny has told me, he goes, yeah, and I kind of don't want to tell you how much money we've made with Bob's because that's not the point. And I appreciate that attitude very much. I actually have taken that attitude to heart with things that I do. That it's not about how much money you make. It's just about the fact that you're doing it and that everybody supports it. So it's great that you guys are stepping up, and it's going to be sad not to have lots of Bob's around this year, but we know that we can drink Manny's right now and support something else that's really important. And next year we'll be back, and we'll just have to drink twice as much Bob's next year.
That's right. Yeah. No, we'll have something to do next year for sure.
Well, guys, is anything else you want to tell us about what's going on at the brewery these days? Do you know what's going on at the breweries this day?
Yeah, I mean, we're one of the lucky ones. We're still operating at just over half of our capacity, so that gives us the capability to keep our crew still employed and sell as much beer as we can. Matt is still making new beers. How many new IPAs do you have on tap now right now, Matt? Like 4?
4 or 5, yeah. Then you got a couple of fermenters, so I've been cranking away on those ones. And
yeah,
it gives us a lot of time to actually get some cleaning, even more cleaning done around the brewery too. So that's always kind of a bonus.
Yeah, but there's always something to check out at the brewery, and I would encourage everybody out there right now to really frequent their local brewery, because especially the ones that don't already have their hand in canning. That's what everybody's trying to get into now, right? And there's just not enough resources. So if you have the ability to stay in your neighborhood and go to your brewery to pick up a growler, it helps so much. And it's really important to do what you can there to help these breweries push through this hard time.
Yeah, it's actually, we're in the middle of Craft Beer Week nationally. We would normally be getting towards Seattle Beer Week, and nationally it's Craft Beer Week. And this is the time of year where we all focus on supporting our local breweries, and it's never been more important than it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also been more it's also more direct right now than it's ever been. You know, at this point, if you almost don't have a choice but to support your local brewery. You know, if you have a brewery in your neighborhood, that's the brewery you should be supporting.
Right.
But it's a very interesting time, and
yeah, we'll make it through.
who knows how long it's going to take, but eventually we're going to have a vaccine, and I'm going to be able to get a haircut. I just have one more question for you guys, and I want to ask you a question. I want to know, do any of you know who was the hand model for this can? Is that Roger? Is that Roger? Because his nails look spectacular, so I'm guessing it was Roger.
Yeah.
Could be J-Rob.
Yeah.
Well, those fingers look a little bit too. J-Rob's got fatter fingers than that.
Well, I mean, I think J-Rob's hands are a little more gnarled from playing all the golf he's playing right now, too.
Yeah.
He was very happy about the first phase of the reopening, huh?
Yeah. Hey, Kendall, you would probably know. Do you know who was going to make the Seattle Beer Week beer this year?
Who was going to?
Yeah, before all this happened, because I imagine that was decided a while ago. Did you ever catch wind of who was actually going to be the one that's going to be making the Seattle Beer Week beer?
That's a really good question. I have absolutely no idea. You know what? I may have heard it at some point, but a lot of stuff has happened since then, and
because right around the time there's probably normally would have announced that, it would have. I think it all happened, but I never did hear or heard a rumbling of who was supposed to make it this year.
That's sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad when I start thinking about stuff like that. Thanks, Matt.
Stuff that happened.
It's all like all the announcements I get from. I just got an announcement today, a big press release telling me that the Bend Beer Fest is not happening this year. They canceled it this year. It's like, well, you know, I know, but you don't need to send me a press release.
Reminding me. Yeah.
God. Send me a press release about something that is going to happen this summer. You know, don't send me press releases about all the stuff that's not going to happen this summer.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, well, thanks a lot, you guys. I really appreciate you jumping on with us. I know today was and it was exciting news, and you're all over. Georgetown is all over the media today. The most ubiquitous beer in Seattle, beloved Manny's Pale Ale, going into a can.
Never thought it would happen.
No, me neither. And the article I wrote today was like, I tried to be as clever as possible, but I was also working as fast as possible. So I was looking for a way to talk about how it makes sense because, you know, recently our whole world got turned upside down, and just like a keg of Manny's. So I was like, the beer that the people behind the bar always used to refer to Manny's as the upside down beer, and now it's the right side up beer. I don't know. I tried to go someplace with that, but anyway, thanks again, you guys, for jumping on, and enjoy another beer. And someday we're going to get to sit around a beer garden someplace and share a beer and say hello to each other in person. And that'll be a good thing. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to trying the Manny's in the can too. It'll be a new thing.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Have a beer. Drink Georgetown beer. Support your local brewery. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, Kendall.
All right. Take it easy.